Hey, everybody, welcome. I'm so glad you could jump on for today. This is the recap of Thursday's Power Up because we had technical difficulties, but we have our guest here today, and so we are ready to go. We'll give you all a minute to jump on, but I'm excited because today is going to be proof that anyone can, when given the right tools and the desire to move forward, absolutely change their lives. My name is Melanie Greeno. If it's your first time here, I do power-ups every Thursday, which are quick trainings, things that you can apply and implement. I absolutely believe that, knowledge without action is a waste of time. And we may as well be eating jubes and roasting marshmallows if we're not going to actually apply what we've learned. And so the power-ups are all about taking skills in bite-sized pieces and being able to apply them long-term over time and to move forward progress, not perfection, right? So often many of us, especially if we're wanting to do some big things, get caught up in everything having to be perfect, but rather we should acknowledge that progress is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And that's what actually leads us to our destiny, which is very cool. So for all of you that are your first time here, you may or may not be familiar with my training, but really what we do here is all about building an empire. It's about how do we, whatever that is to you, right? I have my idea of what my empire is. You have yours. Our guest today has hers. And I'm going to get her to go into what that might look like for her a little bit. But everybody's going to be unique and there is no right answer. And often people get turned off by talk of money or building, something extravagant. But really, you guys understand building an empire isn't about the money. It's about delivering our purpose into the world and impacting people in a way that leaves the world a better place than when we got here, right? We're born on a day, we die on a day. The dash in the middle is what matters. And it doesn't matter to, everyone, but it matters to you. Having said that, your life has a ripple effect. Everything that you do affects other people. So whether that is a good thing or a negative thing at this point, you can hit reset at any point. So people are watching you. They're learning from you, whether you think they are or not. And we've lived the last 15 years of our lives leading people towards success. A big part of what we do is teach financial independence, meaning how do we increase your income, decrease your debt, and get you working in a way that's going to be most effective for delivering that purpose and becoming a better person. It's all about the character too. So without further ado, I want you to meet my guest today. She is unbelievable. I've been working with her for about 2 years. And I'm going to let her talk about where she was when she got started. But I want to say that if I could give out an award for most improved player and most valuable player to the same person, she would probably get that award. And here's why. She has done in a very short period of time what anybody can do, but most people won't do. And that is why I call her a unicorn. So when you guys see me, #unicorn, this is the kind of person that I'm talking about. 80% of the people will do 20% of the work and 20% of the people do 80% of the work. And that ratio is true no matter where you go. Also, most people ask, but don't apply when they get the answer, meaning they're assholes. They ask, you give them the information, and they never actually apply it. This is not the case with this one. So without further ado, Shanda Wright is a phenomenal woman. I met her 2 years ago. And Shanda, maybe you could just share with the audience kind of, where you were and what's happened for you in the last little bit. We'll get into it, but just an overview.
Well, 2 years ago, I was drowning in $100,000 in debt. A landlord had multiple properties, and I had been in professional sales, business to business, for about 10 years at that point, and had always done very well. I'd always met my numbers. I was always, among the top, and I thought that I had nothing left to learn. So I was feeling a little hopeless, a little kind of like, is this it? I just wake up and go to work and pay bills for the rest of my life? I didn't really know what it was all about, what I was supposed to be doing, and it really started to weigh on me. The idea of monotony was not something that made me excited to get out of bed. And so then I actually struggled with depression as a result of that whole situation and, my view on it. And, but was hungry. I wanted something more, and I just didn't know what it looked like.
So good. So clearly described. So then maybe, just so you guys know, Shanda and I met at a business meeting, and I was doing a training there. And can you explain to everybody where you were mindset wise when we met and how that kind of journey progressed for you?
Well, every person that was successful, I thought I was better than, and that I could do it better. And I was, gracing them with my presence. And I'm exaggerating slightly for effect because, that's obviously not really where my head was at. But at the same time, like, I was definitely pegged myself up against all of the leaders instead of absorbing from them because, even if two people are at the same place, I realize now that you both have different ways of getting there and you have different tools. And that wasn't the way that I saw it before. I saw it very much as pecking order and like, yeah. So I was sitting there thinking about how I could do your job better than you. And also how I had never met anyone who was as bold but also as kind. And so it was an interesting contrast for me because I find there's kind women and there's bold, successful women, but I hadn't seen many that I considered to marry those two. And so it was intriguing the way you were presenting.
Well, I absolutely love the first time I met you because you literally, like everything you do, went straight for the result that you were looking for. And I actually admire that. Like, I love that you were like, I want to know this, this, and this, and here's why. And I think that oftentimes, people skirt around the issue. They want a certain result, but they're not necessarily willing to ask for help in that area. And I didn't find that with you, even though you may have felt like that competitive, what I would call that competitive spirit, that competitive nature. I also felt like there was this creative thing in you that wanted to build wealth, and you were well on your way. I mean, you guys understand at her age to be a landlord of multiple properties, and the debt she's referring to accumulated over some good debt and some bad debt. But she really has done amazing things. And so anybody who has the success that she had on paper in the world at her age would have the right to have that, like, I know, I don't need your help. But Shanda actually really quickly came to a place of like, okay, listen, I think I can learn some stuff. And I just want you to talk about, what has really been the biggest impact on you? Obviously, the personal development. I mean, just so you guys know, how many events have you been to, Shanda?
I think it's like, if you include the big week to 2 week long retreats, which I definitely do, I would say 18 in the last 2.5 years.
18. And that is a big, big part of the success that you've had. And that's from multiple coaches, you guys. That's not just her coming to my events or going to somebody else's events or their events or that. But I'm talking like the whole, she went to Thailand with us for an event there. She's been to Israel. Like, some really cool stuff has happened. We'll get you talking about that in a minute. But what do you think has been the biggest game changer for you outside of events, obviously, because events change our experience, who changes who we are, which is why they're so important. But what's been really working for you on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis?
Well, I'd consider myself a high achiever. And I had a coach once say the amount of things that someone who's like me would try and get done and actually accomplish in a day is more than most people would even try to do in a week. Like the number of balls in the air, the number of things that I would tackle. And what I would find is that I really loved being in that zone. And so when I was in that zone, I would hyper produce, but I'd also overload my plate. And then I was riding a roller coaster. Literally, it was up and down. It was, crash and burn and work really hard and do a strong run and then fall. And I'd get sick all the time. I was just literally running super hard, and then I would crash. So the biggest adjustment for me has actually been able to delegate my time management and priority management to a system that I don't have to worry about managing, so it doesn't take any energy to make sure things happen properly, and based on my priorities of where I actually want to be, not just based on my to-do list. And I also feel like I'm in control of things. I'm not being pulled in 18 directions all the time. I'm not constantly being nagged at. Like, I feel like I have control, even though I'm doing, the same or more things, probably more now, but I'm doing it with more grace, and I can see the things that need to be delegated, and I can, handle it well. And it feels more peaceful. And I've heard of the concept of the glorification of busy. Well, I was the epitome of that. I was always busy, but how effective was I, right? So now I'm more effective and less, standardly busy, which is a nice feeling to be able to get more done with less stress in less time and know that what you're doing is moving you towards your goals. Like it was a game changer. And also the having weekly accountability. That was the other thing, reminding myself of what my goals are and what I need to do to get there, the things I can control, the things I can't. And in that process, it's amazing how far you can come in like 2 months. Like you just stay headed in the right direction and, take one step at a time and do it with a system that keeps you organized and keeps your priorities in check. It was, for sure, game changer.
Well, what I love, you guys, is that she's talking about the Build an Empire Success Planner and the system that's built into it. Now, one of the things that you've done, because I coach her on a VIP level, you guys, I only have a few people that I coach every year, actually very few, and she got one of those spots this year, so that's very cool. But I want you to talk about the difference that it's made, because you've been using the planner for 1.5 years, I think, right? Or a year-ish, so she's been using it.
Yeah.
And in the planner, of course, what she's talking about is there's tracking for weekly, monthly, quarterly, goal setting, mindset stuff, and your planner all in one book. But recently, in one of our first coaching sessions, we actually went through the process of creating KPIs, which are key performance indicators. And they're really important for productivity and for measuring your wins, because sometimes, like one of the conversations we had, right, Shanda, was, my relationships, how do I measure that that's improving, that I'm doing the right things in those areas? So just talk a little bit about what KPIs have done for you and the difference they've made. And maybe talk about, if you could, give them a particular goal that you had, KPIs that you set, and how you've been able to measure that. It doesn't have to be too personal, but just something that, so they can get an idea of what we're talking about.
Okay, well, the reason that this all came up, and I'm sure it was, something you had in your back pocket and we're going to bring up anyways, but the reason that we had that discussion is because I just wanted to feel like I was winning. I had been seeing long-term progress, and when I looked back, I could see that I was winning, but I didn't feel daily like I was winning. And I like to feel like I'm winning. I think everybody does like to feel like they've done, that they're moving in the right direction, that they're winning on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So that was my goal 2 months ago when we set these KPIs, which is amazing. I can't believe it's only been 2 months. Everything's changed.
Well, we'll tell them in a minute.
And so, when we set these KPIs, so I set them in every area of my life. I have, a banner goal for each section of my life: my spirituality, my physical fitness, my relationships and my family, as well as my business. And so there were a few examples with my job. I work with business to business clients to help them market their companies here on Vancouver Island. And I wanted more customers. I wanted a lot more customers. So, and specifically, I worked backwards from my income goal and said, okay, well, how many customers would that take? And then it's like, what's your average sale? What's your closing rate? How many calls will you have to make? And then when I started making that many calls, and we started working on how to improve the ratios to be able to take something from a 1% success rate to a 10% success rate. Well, I mean, I've had more new clients in the last 2 months than I had in the last 6. And they're happy and excited, and their businesses are growing, and it's just amazing. And then in the softer areas where it's not as tangible as that, I didn't really understand how to win in that area of my life. But for example, I want a strong, harmonious relationship with my family. I want my family to have that. And so one of my KPIs is to call my mom 3 times a week. And it's like, because I can go 7 days without talking to my mom. And you know what? I don't want that to be a thing. And even if it's 10 minutes between things, just letting her know that she's on my mind and reaching out to her 3 times a week was something that I knew I could control. I can't control her having access to the phone or being up for a phone call, but I can do my part. And so it's nice to be able to track that. And I do that in my planner. I just have a spot for activity tracking in there. So yeah, those are a couple of examples.
I love it. And I want to talk specifically about what's happened for you with your sales. 3 areas. Number 1, obviously the number. 2, I want you to tell them what's happened to your closing cycle to your implementation?
Okay. Well, the number, like I said, probably, I'd say 10 times the volume in terms of my activity level. Yeah, my boss was actually worried I was doing too much. And, when your sales manager is like, please don't do too many sales that you get in over your head. It's a beautiful thing. And customer service is a big part of my job as well. So there's good cause for that concern. But that being said, it is a high level of activity, and it's a lot more customers and new industries. So, to be able to see my income go up, there's some months where it's been, 30, 40%. So it's been huge wins, and getting bonuses and things like that is just awesome. And then when it came to it's funny. I had been using cold calls are one of the things that I felt very comfortable with. This was a comfort area of mine. I've been doing them for 12 years. You do that many of anything and you're going to get comfortable with it. But I had a big desire to not be salesy, and also to not be weird, but to be direct. So I didn't want to have this big, long, drawn-out thing where I started selling them before I even knew their name. But I also didn't really know what to do. So I would literally just call and ask for the person in charge of buying advertising. And that didn't create any dynamic or there was no, why, that's just calling and saying, hi, I'm a salesperson, I'd like to sell you something. It just didn't create the right dynamic. I like to create business partners, not customers, if that makes sense. Even though they're my customers. Yeah. So when we worked through some of the ratios, you saw that I could make 100 calls and get 2 appointments, and that was a big discrepancy. And so when we started working together, now out of 100 calls, I might get between 20 and 50, depending on how well qualified they are. And so needless to say, it takes a lot less calls, a lot less time to make the same amount of money. And the process of taking someone from the first time I meet them to implementing their plan used to be about a 90-day to 120-day process. And now it's, anywhere from 1 week to 2 months, but I haven't had anything take longer than 2 months.
That is incredible. And you know what's so awesome? You did all of it. That's the best part. It's literally through just tweaking some scripts, figuring out what was working and what needed to change, and then her going out and implementing, all of that happened in 60 days. 60 days. What just happened? It's so awesome to see that we really can make real change in our results in a very short period of time. I think often, and correct me if I'm wrong, but do you find that often when you're dealing with people and you think about them implementing change or getting radical results, that they're thinking it's going to be a year or 2 years down the road? And maybe you even felt that way yourself. What was your expectation when we started working together? What was your expectation that you wanted to get out of the year?
I actually expected, because we had talked about looking at the structure of the coaching once every 6 months. So obviously it can go from more video to, more tools like the planner. Sometimes it's more coaching one-on-one, but obviously you have a repertoire of things that you can do to help. And so the plan was to start in April and to work for 6 months on the current structure that we're working with. And I thought, because it's a 120-day process, that it would take 90 days to get off the ground, and then I would see some fruit of that in the next 90 days that would, end up ultimately paying off the 90 days after that. So it would be a 9 to 12 month payoff. And to see it within, 3 weeks, I was like, what is happening? This is so amazing. And when I get a new client, I'm helping an entrepreneur and a small business owner. We're driving the economy. We're helping families. We're making a difference in the city, and we're adding employment, adding jobs, creating security. It's just the impact it has, like you said, it's not just us. And so to be able to feel like I'm doing that much more is so cool.
I love it. And let's talk a little bit about the process of your branding, because you literally have been working really diligently. And I think a lot of people are at that place where they want to improve their brand, or they don't really know which way to go. How has that been for you? You did the branding course that so she's in my membership, and she did the branding module. And what's happened for you as far as clarity around your brand and what that looking like? Maybe just tell them what you kind of come to for what you stand for, how you deliver your purpose into the world or what you want to deliver?
Well, I work for a corporation and I represent brands that are very popular and fun. So when you have a radio station, like the rock radio station is pretty cool. So I had always put myself underneath the banner. And the challenge with the marketing module was, what is it that you bring to the table? What's unique about the process of dealing with you? What do you stand for? And what do you take from every interaction, whether it's a volunteer interaction or it's a business one? And that was a challenge. And it's interesting because I'm actually in advertising and marketing, so I should know better. I should know better. And I didn't. And I just didn't know where to start. I found it really challenging. And we started with some questions that I would journal through. But what came out of that is something that's really crystal clear. And now I can communicate it even when I'm meeting with clients, where I have a brand promise to make their job easier, to help them make more money and grow their business. And in the process of making it easier, actually take things off of their plate, and then to leave them feeling on fire and believed in, so that they have somewhere that they can plug in when the grind gets a little gritty. And so to be able to clearly say, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm not perfect, and I do not work with people that expect perfection from me, because I'm not. And there's times where I need more grace than others, but I will never stop working, and our team will never stop working hard for our clients. And so it's just amazing to be able to say that with such confidence, knowing that this is what I'm going to do for you. And I've had one client that was so happy with how I delivered this. Less than a year of working together. In the last 90 days, he's like using his sales team to bring me into his customer's office to get them to talk about buying from me. It's like another level of referral. I've never seen anything like it. And like writing testimonials that are really much more personal than I would expect someone to share with a stranger, to create these relationships. And even people that have just started with me. I have a client that was on the radio for 2 weeks, and I gotta, we're so sure we have the right person for the job. If it wasn't for you, we would have never done this. Thank you so much for being on our team. And it's just creating this really cool dynamic between me and my clients. So obviously I'm happier because I know what I am here for and what I'm not here for. So I know my job description, but they know what they can count on me to do and to stand for and believe in and be for them, which is really cool. So it's not just about it's actually very little about the imagery. It's actually much more about that understanding how to convey it. And I always knew what my mission was, but what was the emotional benefit? What was the practical benefit of working with someone with that mission? And so it was the process of implementing it was really cool. And now I can sympathize with my clients better too, because they've had to come up with logos and their branding and their mission and their job description. So it's really cool. It's been absolutely incredible. And yeah, even for someone who has a brand that I can lean on, like the radio station that's got a cool, rock and roll brand, that I still need my own. So that was, I didn't listen on that one for a while.
And tell them what you chose, because I think it's so fitting.
I chose the right to, so my last name's Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T. So I love the idea of playing on that. And the right to choose is something that I stand for heavily. I believe that what you do, your choices that you make today will define your tomorrow. And I'm an example of that, literally to have been drowning and depressed 2.5 years ago. And I see Facebook memories and it blows my mind every single time. I'm like, I can't believe. So the idea that you can choose today that tomorrow's going to be better, and you can keep walking that way, and you can choose to get through it, or you can choose to fold. And, that's a choice that you have as well. But my belief system is that I want to challenge what it is that you've considered, what you think is possible. My goal in every client meeting is to have them say, I never thought about it like that. Or that's a good question. I never thought of that before. And they start really understanding more about themselves and what they're choosing and the results that they're getting in their life. So if you don't like what you have, then make a different choice and get something different, because it's more in your control than I think people feel. And, we're not victims of circumstance unless we choose to be. So that concept of, that's why I love the entrepreneurial spirit. That's why I love introducing your brand and your brand promise to the world. That's why I love advertising, because if people don't know about you, they can't choose you. But it's also something that I'll fight for, because there's times where I've needed you, Melanie, to say, Shanda, I know that this is where you're going, and just to hold me accountable to that. And there's times where you can make a choice and you can set in that direction, but then, you really want to lose that 20 pounds, but the donut is really beautiful.
right there.
It's right there and I want it. And so to have that person that can say, that can remind you of where you're going and what you've chosen, is also part of my role. So that's how I came up with that slogan, so to speak.
I love it. I love it. I love it. You guys can find her on Facebook. How are they going to connect with you?
Right to Choose is the page. So you can, it's WRIGHT. You can just put that in there. I promise I'm the only one.
You guys want to head over to her page, like and follow her. And when you click follow, if you hit see first under the follow tab, you'll be able to get notified when she goes live. She also has a document. I don't know if is it on your Facebook page yet?
No, it's not there yet.
Okay, well, maybe you guys can go over there and like it. We have a document that she's created that is steps to getting free from debt, how to unbury yourself. And she's going to share some tips there, which is very, very cool because she does run debt reduction classes, which is awesome. So she's now paying it forward. So quickly, just in closing, Shanda, we're running a challenge. Obviously, it's a 3-part video series. This isn't a live challenge, meaning people sign up on this day and it launches this day and it closes. For the month of June, we're talking about productivity moving forward, the next 6 months of the year. How do people get the kind of results that they've gotten? And you've been through a few of my challenges. And so what would you say to people about getting started and maybe some tips for them to get through the information? Because I think a lot of times people sign up for stuff and then they forget they signed up or they don't go through the deal, right? But you're so good at actually following through. What would be your tips there?
I think that I would give this tip anytime anyone wants to make a new choice in their life. And that's have a vision for it. Know what you're fighting for. If you want more time with your children, don't let the reason that you get started be the reason that you don't follow through. And I see that a lot with parents in particular, or like saying that you're too tired to go to the gym. That's another great example. Or I'm too poor to pay off debt. That kind of, it's just the very reason. It is the very reason that you need to do this. And when you know all I knew when I got started was that it had to be something better. I didn't have any picture. I didn't even know what I wanted, let alone what I stood for, let alone where I was going. All I knew was I was just showing up. And if you can just show up, that's like, you'll beat 80% of them. But you'll also, if you know what you're fighting for and where you're going and know, just like you would if you started a road trip, where you're headed, then if there's a detour, you take the detour, but you still get there. And so knowing the destination that you have in mind, or at least the feeling you'd like to have, I wanted to stop feeling hopeless. I wanted to stop feeling constant pressure. I wanted to stop feeling like I could never feel any better and that I could never get ahead no matter how hard I worked. I wanted to stop feeling like no one had my back. I wanted to stop feeling like that. So knowing that, I was like, wow, I need to do something then. And she seems to have a better idea than I do. So I'm just going to go this way and follow her directions, which worked for me. So, find someone that has what you want and do what they do. That's a good one. But know where you're going. And if you don't know where you're going, then find someone who looks like something like you would want and follow them. And then eventually you'll find your feet. So
I love it. And I love that you continue to grow. I mean, that you continually become better. Like, I can't wait to see where you are 2, 3, 4 years from now. It's going to be blown. You got nominated for top 40 under 40 in your city, which is a huge accomplishment. It's very cool to see where you've gotten to in such a short period of time. So thank you for coming on live today.
Thank you for having me. It's always great to see you.
You're welcome. Everybody give Shanda a thank you in the comments. I just want to say this. If you are ready to change your life, if you're really ready to move forward the next 30, 60, 90 days, if you want to get some results like Shanda's had, if you want to transform the picture of your empire or even know what you can do to build an empire, or maybe you just need to tame the overwhelm, increase profits, and stop feeling like you're going mad with your schedule, or worse yet, have no direction at all, which is where the hopelessness comes in, then I'm going to encourage you to click the link. It's going to be in the comments as well as in the post above the video and below the video so that you guys can get registered. It is only open for June. It is a 3-part video series. It comes with a workbook and some crazy bonuses, but you have got to click play. Like, literally put your email in, get that sent to you, follow through. And you're going to want to also go to the join the Facebook group, check it out. There's a join the group button on this page where you can get into that transformation It's called the Total Transformation Build an Empire group. It is free, but we do a lot of free training in there. So the conversation after this video is going to happen over there. So you're going to want to make sure that you go get into that group. There's a workbook that's going to come to you as well as the videos. And we're just going to follow through. And June is going to be all about productivity. I have a very special guest coming on Thursday. She has built an amazing brand. She is an online marketer. She's an online business person. She helps people grow their stuff. And she is a powerhouse. So you're going to want to be here live Thursday at noon, I believe it is, maybe 10 o'clock. We'll post it. But just make sure that you don't just let this beautiful story of Shanda's testimony fall flat, meaning if she can do it, you can do it. And if you can do it, anybody can do it. And that's our goal. Here at MelanieGreeno.com, we want to reach 100,000 people with the Build an Empire message in the next 5 years. And the only way we're going to do that is by your help. So go ahead, share this video around, get people connected to the challenge. Let's go change some lives. Thanks for being here, Shanda.
Thanks.
Bye.